Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Monday and all of our guests today, including Elliotte Friedman in Florida, are sponsored by Basant Motors. Ready to find your next vehicle? Visit Basant today to experience the difference for yourself. The friendly team looks forward to helping you drive home with the perfect vehicle for your needs, your budget. Getting to your destination starts with them. Stop by their dealership. Start your car and then stop by their dealership. Located at 16315 Fraser Highway in Surrey. Check them out online at Basant Motors, BASANTmotors.com. Game 3, Stanley Cup Final tonight. Sunrise of Florida. Oilers and Panthers in spectacular fashion, tied at 1. Joining us now to talk about it from the 32 Thoughts podcast and Hockey Night in Canada, Elliotte Friedman. Elliotte, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
My pleasure. I'm good, Don. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Flying solo today, although I have the help.
You look lonely.
Of Ryan Henderson. I am. I miss Rick. A couple of well-deserved days off. He's going to be back on Wednesday, and he'll be here for your next hit in a couple of Mondays. Hey, Elliotte, this has just been terrific so far. What are the elements that are making this Stanley Cup, at least after 2 games, so special?
I think, number one, they're 2 great teams. There's no question about that. I've seen a lot of tweets from fans saying, oh, my goodness, I'm a fan of this team, and they look nothing like either of these 2 teams, so you're very worried about that. I think the other thing, too, is that the high level of skill of the great players here, like McDavid looks fantastic, Draisaitl looks fantastic. I think the only stud who hasn't really made an imprint on this series yet is Barkov, and if I was Edmonton, I'd be a little bit worried about that. Like, he's the one great player left in the series who hasn't made that kind of an imprint yet. I think both of these teams can play fast. I think they can both check. I think that's one thing we've learned about the Oilers is that they are much more committed defensively than a lot of us gave them credit for. They can both play mean. They can both play defense the way defense has to be played now. And, you know, they're pretty evenly matched. There's not a lot of difference between these 2 teams. You know, I'll say this, Donnie, if there's one thing that concerns me a little bit for Edmonton, you know, Hyman's out, and now we've got a little bit of a question mark around Nugent Hopkins. Now, I think Tkachuk is playing pretty hurt, and I think Reinhart is playing pretty hurt, but at least the Panthers still have those guys in the lineup. Edmonton's already 1 down, and we'll see about the Nuge, and that would concern me a little bit if I was the Oilers.
Yeah, game time decision, I believe, Elliotte, for Ryan Nugent Hopkins of Burnaby.
Yeah, he was on the ice a bit this morning, and the way he was handling the puck, you kind of got the impression it's a hand or wrist thing. So we'll see where this goes. But if he's taking the warm up, then it's a question of does he think he's comfortable enough, or doesn't hurt them if he plays. That's what it says to me tonight.
Hey, Elliotte, what did you think of the Brad Marchand trade when it was made, and what do you think of it now? 17 points in 19 playoff games.
Well, first of all, I thought it was not what he wanted. I think he wanted to be a Boston Bruin forever. I don't believe that being traded was his first option. I think the Bruins had made a decision that they had agreed to go to 3 years with him. That was initially one of the issues, that they wanted 2 years and he wanted 3. They eventually wanted 3, but they didn't want to go where he wanted to go, which was in the $7.5 million range. They were closer to 6 and a bit. And, he asked them a couple days before the deadline if they could bridge the gap. But I think the way the season had gone and some of the other moves they made, the Bruins had made a decision that they were going to reload. And, I think I know the Bruins fans feel they didn't get enough. I think this, and I said this to him last week, Don. Sometimes we've changed jobs in our careers, and after it happened, at the beginning, you're nervous and you're scared and you're like, okay, I'm going into the great unknown here. But after you realize, boy, this was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And Marchand wouldn't go that far. He wouldn't say that. but I do think he's been rejuvenated by it. I think he's realized there's a whole other world out there. I have believed that the Bruins wanted to trade him to LA, and they were working on something, but Marchand and his representatives worked hard to make it be Florida, and it's been a perfect fit for him. And I'll tell you this: the I've heard that there's some teams that really are interested in him in the $8 million range. So we'll see where that goes in the offseason.
Elliotte, when we're talking about Marchand, he, I think, talked either yesterday or over the weekend about he's only thinking about right now, but he would be open to signing there. And then he was also asked, though, about the tax situation, which is getting a lot of play up here. And Bill Daley kind of poured cold water on it during the State of the Union. Do you see anything changing CBA-wise or anything that can counterbalance this advantage these no tax states have against other places?
Ryan, no, I don't believe it will. And that was because that day, not only did Bill Daley poo-poo it, but the NHLPA was there, Marty Walsh and Ron Hainsey, and Ron Hainsey really poo-pooed it. So it said to me that the league doesn't consider it enough of a big deal, and the players don't consider it enough as a big deal. Ron wouldn't have reacted the way he did if the players thought it was something. So that says to me neither side has the appetite to do this. So it won't be changing.
Manny Malhotra, Abbotsford heading to the Calder Cup Final.
Yep.
A lot of talk about Manny here and the job he's done in 1 year on the job. How close was he to the Vancouver Canucks job here? And also, some people are linking him to Dallas. Of course, they're the only opening left with the head coaching vacancy. Is there any possibility that Manny might be interested or Dallas might be interested in Manny?
I can't say, as we sit here right now and I do your show, I can't say for sure that he's on Dallas's list. But what I can say, Ryan, is that he fits the profile of the type of coach that Dallas is looking at. Dallas is interested in going, I don't know if off the board's the right word, but maybe fresh. The one thing is they have a really good AHL coach, the guy that Manny just beat, Neil Graham. And they're going to lose Neil Graham if they don't hire him or promote him. They're going to lose him at some point in the next few years. So I would guess that if they go AHL head coach, he's got the inside track. But I had heard names like Carl Taylor, who's in Milwaukee, Todd Nelson, who's in Hershey. And I do think they're interested in guys that fit Manny Malhotra's profile. I think the only question about Malhotra right now, and this is the only question, is that he's only been head coach for what, a year?
Yeah.
And I think to me, like Malhotra has enormous respect. People really respect him. I remember when the Leafs first brought him in as an assistant coach, they were so excited. I think the only question about Malhotra is he ready? Is he, after 1 year as an AHL head coach, is he ready? That's the only question.
Problem is, people have the same question about Adam Foote, Elliotte.
Yeah, I understand that. And I was thinking as I said it, and I said, unless Donnie's asleep here, I know what the follow-up question is I'm getting. I said this before to you guys, and I say this again. One of the biggest things that the Canucks had to do was, you can't always make your players happy, but this was a situation where the Canucks knew after the year they had last year, they had to do something with this hire that the players were at least comfortable with. And there's a lot of key players on that team, especially defense, which the Canucks consider a strength, that are big Adam Foote fans. And I think that played a big role in the decision, whether they want to come out and say it or not. The comfort level with Adam Foote and the fact that they knew they needed somebody the key players would be okay with after the year you had last year, that was the number one thing that was in favor of Adam Foote, and I believe the reason that ultimately the Canucks made the choice. If they went outside or went somewhere else, they were risking after a hard year last year and that the players might not end up being comfortable with the decision.
Impossible to fall asleep during an Elliotte Friedman interview, by the way. One more, Elliotte, I'm putting you on the spot here, but how much do you know, because there seems to be so much respect out there for this gentleman, about new Canucks assistant Kevin Dean?
You know what? I don't know Kevin very much personally, but I know his reputation out there. There have been a couple of times in the past few years where he's been available and he's been highly sought after. I know when he left Chicago, I think the number one D coach available this offseason was a guy you guys know very well, and that was Brad Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he didn't stay in Philadelphia, there were a ton of teams that raced after him. But when Kevin Dean was made available after Chicago let him go, I know there were a lot of calls to him too. So I do think it's a good sign for Vancouver that they got him, because he is someone who has respect. I remember the previous time, I think it was Boston that he left, there was a lot of interest in him as well. So I don't know him personally, but I know he's got a good reputation. I know that there's been interest in him to do that job before, and I think it's a good thing for Vancouver that he ultimately came there.
The entertainment has been so outstanding, Elliotte. Hopefully it continues tonight and for the rest of the series. Enjoy Florida, my friend, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Speak to you in 2 weeks.
You bet.